Welcome to the Politically Asian podcast. We're just two Asian American buds talking about politics and the Asian American community in hopes of getting more Asians to talk about politics. Today, we're coming at you live from Alabama and a very snowy Brooklyn, New York. My name is Aaron Yin. My pronouns are he, him, and you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Aaron Flarin. That's AARONFLARIN. And my co-host.
Hey, I'm Gerrie Lim. My pronouns are they, them, and you can find me across the internet at Gerrieyaki. That's GERRIEYAKI. Let's take care of some housekeeping. So if you're new to the pod, we have a Patreon for you to support us. But you can help support us by helping us pay for website fees, hosting fees, and more. And in exchange, we have some fun perks, including shoutouts, custom merch, videos, and more. Check out the rewards at patreon.com/politicallyasian. As always, if you like the podcast, please give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. All you have to do is find our podcast, scroll down, and click 5 stars.
Today we're going over more politically Asian news that's been happening, but before that, we're going to do our Hot Take Hot Pot, where we each offer one opinion on the Asian community that we've been thinking about and discuss them. Okay, I'll go first. My hot take this week is I think some Asian people have trouble accepting criticism about the Asian community because anytime they hear a critique, they think we're saying every single Asian person has this problem. And what made me think about this was I've been reading a lot about Suni Lee this week, and she talked about how she's getting hate from some members of the Hmong community for having a black boyfriend, and everyone starts interpreting this as like, oh, why is Suni Lee saying like the whole Hmong community is like anti-black, and like I think there's just a huge gap between what she's saying, which is like some people in the Hmong community are giving her shit for this and having some, I guess, like anti-black attitude, and conflating it to like, oh, Suni's saying every single person in our community is anti-black, she's bringing us all down. That kind of feeling. I think there's just a lot of nuance that's being lost between what people are like, what the actual criticism is and how it's being interpreted.
I see. Okay. I'm trying to decide, should I give my rating now, or because like I feel like on the surface it's kind of like it's a milder take, but I think we could analyze this and it could definitely get hotter because I have some thoughts. Okay,
what are the thoughts?
So, well, first off, insert joke about not understanding English.
Really, the word "some" really gets lost by a lot of people. Yeah.
I think my first response is that I think this is kind of symptomatic of like an obsession with representation, right? Like one person represents all of us. You know what I mean? So like we lose that understanding of like, one does not mean all, you know what I mean? Like that kind of thing. And then the second half is a spicier take. Yeah, she did not say all, but if she is feeling unsupported, then that means the ones who aren't outwardly criticizing her aren't speaking up for her or protecting her, and or like, saying like, hey, you're being fucking racist, like, so in a way, you know what I mean? Does that make sense? Like if you're not speaking up, then you're just as bad as the people who are saying anti-black things, in my opinion. So in a way, it is the entire community. It's just like, does that make sense?
Okay, I'm getting a little confused by the English as well, but okay, what I'm hearing is it sounds like if you're not speaking up about anti-blackness, you're also part of the problem.
Yeah, exactly. So she doesn't feel supported. Right?
Exactly.
The problem is she doesn't feel supported. So it's like, like just because you aren't saying things about her and her boyfriend, if you aren't, helping her feel better, if you aren't standing up for her, how are you any different?
Yeah, I did see some TikToks that were very supportive of her, and she also replied back, which was nice, right?
Yeah,
so it's not just one-sided. Yeah, she sees them. Yeah, that's the power of Gen Z and being on TikTok.
So Joe's rice roll red sauce. Wow, so many R's back to back. But yeah, that's what I'd have to give that.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. What is your hot take for the week?
My hot take is that, like, kind of like making Asianness measurable was a really bad thing to happen to the Asian political identity. And when I say like making Asianness measurable, I mean saying things like, oh, I feel really Asian when I do this. I feel less Asian because I don't do this.
Oh.
When in reality, there's only two options, right? You're Asian or you're not Asian. Podcast, no. And I just think like this concept of like, oh, I feel, like I'm more Asian because I eat dumplings, I speak Chinese, like doing that, like that's corporate Asian America. They made that up so you buy stuff. You know what I mean? Like that's what it feels like to me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I feel like there's almost like two things. Like the first hot take is just doing things and labeling them as like, this makes me more Asian or less Asian is bad. Is like the first part, right?
Yeah, like what do you mean by that? And then like by making that a thing, then like, you kind of, I feel like that kind of opens it up to like white people to be like, oh, like the way they consume culture or like specifically consume Asian culture, right? Like, yeah,
I mean, I agree with that because like sometimes I forgot how long ago this was, but there was this white professor who was like, oh, I'm more Asian than most Asian American kids because like I speak the language and I've been to the country a lot of times, right? So it's like using these things to be like, I'm more Asian than I guess honestly like genetically Asian or like socioeconomic, like yeah.
I get what you're trying to say. I mean, like, like it doesn't make you more or less Asian if you can't speak your respective language, right? But I'm still gonna get unsettled when I see a white person speaking fluent Mandarin. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Does it all come down to like the ethnicity, like I guess skin tone and appearance? Is that like the main? I
mean, honestly, yeah, kind of. Like if
I feel like
that's what I'm saying. Like I think like we talk pretty frequently about like mixed race people, specifically Asian people. A common refrain that you hear from like Asian folks is that like, oh, Asians don't see me as Asian enough. I don't, like it doesn't matter if I don't see you as Asian enough. Do white people see you as Asian enough? Do they see you as chinky? Do they call you slurs? Do they, you know what I mean? Like,
race is a very visual language.
It's very visual. So like, like if you don't look Asian, then like, I don't know what to say, dude. Sorry.
Yeah.
Like you want the benefits and none of the like, I don't want to say consequences, but like the bad sides too,
Yeah. So that's the first part. And then the second part was you're saying that Asian corporate America uses this to basically make money.
Yeah. I mean, obviously there is no, building in the United States. It's like Asian America corporate, but like it's more, yeah, it's like a mindset. It's a mindset, is what I'm trying to get at. Like, it's a mindset that we've like kind of made ourselves, I think.
I can agree with that. Like Asian, like Asian identity being defined by consumerism. Like if you buy more boba, you might be more Asian.
Exactly. Or like,
you watch Shang-Chi, you are, 8 times, you're super Asian.
Yeah, exactly. It's like what we were talking about, those the vibrator dumplings that went around the internet the other day. Like there's no guarantee if those are even good vibrators or sex toys. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like they just want you to buy it because it's like dumpling shaped.
Yeah. I see. Yeah, got it. Okay. I think the second part's I think the two together, I feel like it's fairly spicy. I'd probably give that like a sriracha.
Okay.
Fairly spicy. A little above mid tier. Yeah.
Okay.
I think the two combined is like I never really thought about how it's sold to make people feel more Asian.
Mm-hmm.
I always thought it was like, oh, like Asian people do this, but I never thought about how doing something might make you feel more Asian or less Asian.
Yeah.
Which is an interesting idea for me to think about until we see each other next.
Okay, noted. So yeah, let's talk about what's happening in the news, what's happening in New York, because I'm flying back tomorrow. The New York governor, Kathy Hochul, she signed a bill last week requiring state agencies to separate data among different Asian ethnic groups. So essentially, like data disaggregation.
Yep.
And that's super cool because people have been like trying to do this for like get this going for like 10 plus years. I
Yeah,
think, is
like
what someone
decades.
said.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and Cuomo
Yo.
was like, we don't have enough money to tell the Asians apart. So
Yeah, exactly. That's what I found so funny is that Andrew Cuomo was trying to stop this. So sad. But yeah, for those of you who don't know why it's important, like separating the different Asian groups will be helpful because Asians in the U.S. have like the greatest wealth gap of any ethnic group, according to a 2018 Pew Research report. So like East Asians, Southeast Asians, South Asians, like they all do pretty differently in terms of like wealth and education, different health factors. So instead of just like averaging everyone together, we get more nuance by splitting everyone into their specific ethnicities.
yeah, I'm super excited for that. I mean, like I think it's still only going to matter to Asians. You know what I mean? Like, but I think it will definitely help out like Southeast Asian people. You know, like who need those numbers, right? Like they need the data to prove that like we're not like those other Asians. No, but like essentially that, you know what I mean? Who are like blocked from opportunities because East Asians and South Asians just take up so much space and like that kind of thing.
Yeah, I feel pretty happy about it. I think it'd also be cool that like if we're filling out forms in New York City, for instance, I guess pretty soon we'll see like so many options for each individual ethnicity.
Yeah.
Instead of just, like Asian Pacific Islander in one little row. I think it'd be cool to see every single individual one. I'm looking forward to that.
Even, is it gonna be every ethnicity? Because like I wouldn't even be mad if it was just like East Asian, Southeast Asian, and South Asian. You know what I mean?
It's split into a lot of it's going to be a lot of different categories. So I'm seeing on this NBC Asian American article, there's going to be Chinese, Japanese, Filipino, Korean, Vietnamese, Indian, Laotian, Cambodian, Bangladeshi, and Hmong. Shout outs again to Suni from earlier. And the same will be done for individual Pacific Islander groups, including Native Hawaiians, Guamanians,
Okay.
Chamorros, and Samoans. So it is that's not the entire list, but it just those are four among the other groups. So it seems really like detailed, which is nice.
Yeah, interesting. Okay. So what else is happening in New York? Oh, Eric Adams got sworn in at New Year's Eve, which they did not cancel. They still had the ball drop.
Yeah, they still had the ball drop
to celebrate the new COVID variant they were making.
Yep. Yeah. For people who don't know about Eric Adams, he is New York City's new mayor. He's also a former cop with the NYPD and also previously Republican. And one of his biggest things is that he strongly believes that the NYPD can be changed from within.
Yeah, I don't. You know what's funny is like we on the I mean maybe you did more research, Aaron, but like for me, like in terms of homework from this pod, we focused so much on Morales and Yang that like I literally have no idea what Eric Adams' policies are.
Oh yeah, I mean, because I don't think anyone thought he was gonna win, right?
Exactly.
And everyone's like, oh, Yang's gonna win, and so even though him and Yang have like the same policy, we're like, okay, let's focus more on Yang because he's more likely gonna win.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're on Twitter too much is what we're trying to say.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. My main takeaway was like, yeah, Twitter clout. Andrew Yang may have like 1 million followers on Twitter, but in New York City, he had like so little clout.
Yeah. So Eric Adams not off to a great start. Like I think he said this at like his inauguration that like cooks, dishwashers, and then like some other like blue collar workers don't have, quote, the academic skills to sit in a corner office, end quote. Aaron, what do you think about that?
Yeah, so my first take on this is, okay, obviously there's a little bit of like classism and stuff involved with this, and thinking that a lot of like people who work at like restaurants and as dishwashers, I think he also said like shoe cleaners and like Dunkin' Donuts employees, etc. Like
Not
they don't
Dunkin'
have
Donuts.
He said something about a Dunkin' Donuts. I was like, that's very specific. Is that a promo? I'm like,
Well, I don't know what it's like in Arkansas, but like in Alabama, it's Krispy Kreme Nation down south.
oh
Okay.
yeah.
So
That's true.
when I moved to the north, they were like, "Yeah, the Northeast runs on Dunkin'." I was like, "This is the worst place on earth."
Yeah.
So that's maybe it's just a local reference kind of thing.
Yeah. Oh, that's true. That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think like when I think about that, I also think about like the Asian angle. I guess the Asian immigrant angle is that there are a lot of Asian immigrants who they were maybe like doctors or engineers or like white collar workers back in their own home countries, but when they immigrated here, whether it's due to like language or like other job barriers, like hiring biases, whatever, like now they're working like blue collar jobs. And so I think that's one thing, at least it's like, like they definitely have the academic skills to sit in a corner office and do also many other things.
Definitely.
Like they're probably pretty smart actually, but they're just like some small things that are like hindering their ability to succeed as well in America versus from like their home country. So
Yeah.
that's like my initial like reaction to that. It's like the classism and also like the Asian immigrant angle. Yeah. Oh, what do you think?
Yeah, no, like, I mean, there are also like our peers, right? Like who graduate from college and maybe they went to those like big expensive schools and like now, like they're working those jobs. They're working those dishwasher jobs. They're working at coffee shops, like that kind of thing. And like, I don't think like, I don't think that makes them any, like, I don't understand this. And then like, I was like reading up on Eric Adams because like I'm like, where are you coming from to say stuff like that? You know what I mean? Like why? And it's not like he went to, okay, you don't have to be a genius. Like I'm not saying like everyone who goes to Harvard is like a rocket scientist, but like it's not like he went to like particularly like it's not like he went to Stanford or anything. Like he went to the New York City College of Technology, John Jay, like I'm not saying those are bad schools, but I'm not saying that, you know what I mean? Like where are you time out? And then like this thing about like academic skills, like just rubs me the wrong way. Like I was like reading, he has dyslexia. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, where are you coming from by saying like those kinds of things? Like you're saying that people don't have academic skills, but like, I don't know. Like he was like failing school because he has dyslexia. So like, what are you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, exactly. It's like you were seen as not having academic skills. You're
yourself.
mayor now, but you're like shitting on other people who are seen as like not having academic skills and thinking they're actually like just dumb as shit or something.
Yeah, like I don't know. It was just I always get like riled up when I don't know. We were talking about this and just saying that like I saw it from more of like an ableist kind of point of view that like school is like not a great measurement first off, like
that's true,
right? Like academia is not like a good measurement of like someone's value, talent, worth, whatever. Like right, like on the pod we agree that like there's no such thing as unskilled labor. So like right, like anything. I was like thinking about this the other day. Like I work as a copywriter. Like I don't want to tell my parents this, but like everything that I learned to do my job, like I learned in high school.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah,
like
100% agree with you.
Yeah.
I mean, I do customer experience. It's just talking to customers every day. It does not require, like I studied architecture in college. It does not require any of that. There's nothing, absolutely nothing.
You have to design the conversations, Aaron. I don't know what architecture is. I don't know what you studying.
It honestly just feels like he kind of forgot where he came from a little bit. Mm-hmm. Like I'm sure he was seen as like dumb. Like he says himself like he did not do well in school, right?
Right.
I'm sure teachers and classmates thought he was extremely dumb and wouldn't go anywhere, right?
Right. Well,
but now he's mayor. I mean, a little bit unfortunately, but he's mayor. Right, and it's now he's like, oh, like I'm like I'm the one kid who was seen as like the dropout who is actually smart. Everyone else is actually just dumb. It's not like what is happening, bro?
Oh my God. Yeah. I don't know. I think there's a lot to be said that we can explore on a different episode, but like just this concept of like forgetting where you come from. I sometimes I feel like a lot of problems really stem from that philosophy or like that phenomenon.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Overall, I'm just like, yo, Adams is not really off to a great start, and I cannot believe it's going to be 4 years of this bullshit. I cannot believe it at all. It's just so terrible.
Okay, well, speaking of our tech jobs, so this was pretty interesting. So for those of you who don't know, the CEO of DoorDash is this Asian guy named Tony Xu. Is that how you pronounce it?
Tony Xu, XU, Xu.
Yeah. Okay, and he launched this initiative to make every employee in DoorDash DoorDash corporate has to do a delivery. And one of the articles online was like wrote, what the actual fuck, wrote an engineer with a reported total compensation of $400,000 a year.
Okay, to be honest, that's kind of on brand, right? Like, if you're making that much money, I'm sure you're kind of diluted, and any request for manual labor of any kind is going to make you so mad.
I worked hard so like I wouldn't have to do it myself.
Oh, yeah, no, exactly. The only thing I want to work out is my fingers, coding every day.
Oh, the consequences of my actions.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess to just add on to that, like there was a DoorDash spokesperson saying that this program, reflects our values, brings us closer to the product, I guess, of food delivery, and helps us build empathy with all of our audiences. How do you feel about this whole thing? How do you feel about Tony making all these workers do a delivery?
Well, this line about build empathy for all our audiences, like low key, it's almost like saying like we didn't have any to start with. You know what I mean? Like that's what that reads to me. But then I also have to like question, like where is this coming from? Because, you built a platform that like steals from small businesses, that doesn't pay their delivery men enough. You know what I mean? Like, it just feels like PR, and like they have tons and tons of like labor issues, right? Like November 2020, DoorDash had to pay $2.5 million back in stolen wages. Your CEO is the highest paid in the Bay Area as of 2020, which is like pretty wild to me because there's some pretty rich people in the Bay Area, but
Tony is the crazy rich Asian in
truly
in SF. Yo, I'm kind of curious because I was looking this up too, and Tony and his wife, they both signed the Giving Pledge, which is like this campaign that was started by like Warren Buffett and Bill Gates that basically is like, we're going to donate more than half of our wealth to charity.
Oh, so you can write it off in your taxes? Like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think Tony's doing some kind of like major PR thing regarding the company. I mean, I will say, okay, I personally like that he's making every engineer do a delivery. I do think it does help with customer experience for everyone to do that. And like, they don't even have to actually all do that, right? Because there is something else saying they could do that or shadow a customer experience agent like me. Yeah, or like support a merchant somehow. So it seems like there's a lot of different ways to gain credit for empathizing with the customer that's not just delivery.
Okay, so there's even a way to get out is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, it seems like there's a way to get out or like alternatives. So I'm just like, I just find it, I think it's good that it just feels like very rich person CEO making his rich software engineering employees do a little bit of work, which I'm like, I guess that's progress relatively, but
okay, I know I opened this episode by saying like, oh, we shouldn't quantify Asianness, but like that feels like a very Asian thing to do. You know what I mean? Like make all your workers do a delivery, even though like software engineers. That's so funny to me.
Yeah.
Whatever, dude.
To make is it like Asian parents making your kids work in the restaurant? Is that sort of an analogy?
Yeah, kind of. Or like it's like obviously as long as we acknowledge this is essentially like PR, it does I don't know. It does kind of feel like like, you know, like Asian parents, like, even if they like make it or like they have like a nice little like nest egg, they still shop at Costco. You know what I mean? Like they still like
Oh,
wash the plastic containers.
yeah, like keeping you humble a little
Yeah,
bit.
yeah, yeah. Like
Yeah, I
that's
can
kind
agree
of what
with
it
that.
feels like to me.
Tony
Those
is very
vibes.
Asian. No, no. Yeah. Okay. I think it also does depend on what he ends up donating to. Like, obviously, if he just sets up his own nonprofit and just donates a lot of money to his own charity, then okay, very questionable, right? I mean, versus giving all the money to like grassroots movements or like, you know, nonprofits that may not be shady or exploiting other people. I think it kind of depends. Very interesting though to see all this happen in the same month.
Yeah, I mean, but to be fair, we have talked about, you know, like, and there's like even a great book about it. Oh my gosh, what's it called? Winners Take All. It's this South Asian author wrote about like billionaires and like the industrial complex of like nonprofit donations and like charitable giving and philanthropy is what it's essentially about. Highly recommend, even though I've only read 3 chapters. It was really good. But yeah, like I still don't love that like way of making the world better, because like why should it be up to one individual with $400 billion to like decide who gets what money, right? Like how is that better? How is that system better?
The main takeaway I get from stuff like the Giving Pledge is like, okay, y'all really did not need that money in the first place then.
Yeah.
If you're comfortable giving it all away, like more than half away, I'm like, all right, you could have given away much sooner or just not had it in the beginning then. Like yeah.
Yeah, no, exactly. I think it's a lot about control, right? Like Bill Gates. I mean, we saw it with Bill Gates, right? He was like, I'm gonna help people I'm gonna give them access to healthcare in other countries, you know, like, but then like when it really came down to it, he was like, no, you can't have the patent to the vaccine.
Yeah, he's a Mr. Vaccine patent right here. Yeah,
Right.
Oh, we must protect this at all costs, even at the cost of human lives. No, exactly.
Yeah. So it's about control.
Okay, and the last item on our news docket involves an Ivy League professor, Amy Wax. She's a law professor at UPenn, and she was on this podcast essentially fear-mongering about Asian people. She was saying, like, oh, you should be worried about the dominance of the Asian elite in the United States. It is a danger. America would be better off with fewer Asian people. Thoughts?
Okay, 2. Dominance of Asian elite. All I can think is, has representation gone too far?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay. And then the second thing is, I always like laugh at things like that. You know, like Asian Americans Asians in general have always been integral to the United States, right? Like in this pandemic alone, the surgical masks, like the blue surgical masks, those were invented by like a Chinese Malaysian epidemiologist. The N95 invented by a Taiwanese immigrant. You know, like the KN95s. Where are you guys getting those? China, Korea,
yeah,
right? Like, are you sure you'd be better off without us?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, by itself, disturbing. I mean, the reason that we talked about it mainly is it's disturbing because she's an Ivy League professor, and you know, Asian people, they're always like, oh, Ivy League's the best school. But then you find out like, oh, this law professor has this point of view, and she was also saying this on a podcast run by another Ivy League professor. I find it funny that Ivy League professors have podcasts, but that's a separate topic. But it's like, yo, like we clearly have we have like one Ivy League person enabling this other racist Ivy League person. I'm just like, Asian parents, hopefully for the next generation, maybe place a little less emphasis on this, because like just because they're an Ivy League professors does not mean they're like the most progressive people.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think sometimes, like, this is gonna sound so mean, but like I think like sometimes Asian immigrants fall prey a little too easily to like marketing scams, and by that I don't mean like Herbalife. I mean like America and
America.
Ivy Leagues. That's what I mean by
Yeah.
marketing scams.
Ivy Leagues, the Herbalife for Asian people. Yeah.
Right. Like it's not like what like you want to go to this school so bad you're willing to sue. You're willing to go to like court, and for what? So you can have a racist teacher? Come on.
Yeah, no, like 100%. Yeah, I mean, it's not even the first time. I mean, with the context of Amy Wax, she's been put on leave and been forced to teach very few courses because she's been very racist in the past as well. So it's like strike two. It's like, yo, these professors, once they're tenured, like she's not going to get fired. Like UPenn's still keeping her, which is the craziest part.
It's almost like the system doesn't work.
Yeah, I'm like this tenure thing is like racism proof, basically.
Right. How did she get tenured in the first place? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, and to be context, yeah, in 2017, she was like, not all cultures are equal, or at least not equal in preparing people to be productive in an advanced economy. Everyone wants to go to countries ruled by white Europeans. And yeah, so I'm just like, this clearly there's some like white supremacy vibes just decorated in a, Ivy League professor costume. give Ivy League professor gift wrap. I don't know. Like it's wolf in sheep's clothing. I don't know how you want to put it.
I think the other thing that like I really want to highlight here is like I love Wikipedia, so I did some background, and like Amy Wax has like the Asian American wet dream for her educational like background. Like her undergrad, she went to Yale. She has a bachelor's in molecular biophysics and biochem. She is a Marshall Scholar, which means like she has a big brain, and they thought she was going to be like, what's this? Let me read the description. Intellectually distinguished young Americans and their country's future leaders to study in the UK. So she did that at Oxford. She did med school and law school at the same time at Harvard. She did a neurology residency at Cornell, and then she finished up law school at Columbia. Like, that's Thanos' Ivy League version. You know what I mean?
Yeah, all the affinities.
Right.
The Ivy League infinity stones, all the Ivy Leagues. That's so funny. Okay, that also just sounds like classic, like Ivy League, like just trying to get all the clout, though. Like
at some point, it's too far.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I mean, obviously the Asian people at UPenn are writing a lot of letters in response that they dislike this, but it's like, I think my main takeaway was that there are a lot of Ivy League professors who are pretty racist, though they might not admit it, is my main takeaway. Like, okay, here's my question. Where would you recommend people to go to college now with this info?
Oh, I mean, like, it depends where you live, but if you're in New York, 100% CUNY. If you're a resident, it's free. And like, there's been studies that CUNY has done more for social mobility than any of the Ivies. That's public education, baby.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, go to a place with more Asian people than like UPenn or like where there's not as many like white professors.
Oh, so the UC system.
Yeah, maybe like the UC system. Yeah. Actually, I don't know if race alone is a good indicator of that. I mean, yeah, maybe a little. I don't know about that actually. Yeah, but
no, you should follow class on that. Like not like educational class, but like just go to a school you can afford. Don't go to a school that's like $200,000 a year. It's not worth it. I promise. Like college does not have to be the best time of your life. You don't have to pay your life for that. You know what I mean? Like you're gonna be spending the rest of your life working off that debt. At a coffee shop.
Definitely, it will not be the best time of your life, especially if you have Amy Wax as a professor.
Yeah.
Like, you spend $200K to go to an Ivy League for the professor to be like, Asian people are a danger to society.
Yeah, and I think that was the one point that I wanted to highlight is like, I think, sometimes we get carried away in thinking like, oh, racist people are ignorant, racist people are like backward hicks, but like, no, like, racist people are like also in these institutions that are like of intelligence, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
racist people are also really smart. Yeah, like
unfortunately,
they're mega mind. Yeah, they're smart but evil, right? Like it's like dumb racist and smart racist. Both racist, but that's true.
Yeah, so That's the main point that like I wanted to bring, because like Harvard, like med school and law school at the same time. What the fuck? Like you ran out of did you run out of brain cells for empathy? Like
Yeah, that's funny. That's funny. It's like that one guy, Johnny Kim, who was, like he was being glorified because he was like an astronaut in law school and military, right? And it's like the same build, essentially. Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah. That's the NASA guy, right? Like the recent.
Yeah, the NASA guy now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Did you ever have an experience like that? Cause I did. I had a racist professor and it was jokes.
Yes. Okay. So I will say, I had a professor freshman year, white guy, very nice. Okay. And like the entire time I knew him, he was friendly. But then, I graduated in 2017, and after that, a few years later, he was writing. I guess this past year, he was writing a whole bunch of articles, essentially saying like why Black Lives Matter is bad, why they're essentially like terrorists. And I'm like, bro, what the fuck? I'm like, it's very awkward. I'm just like, yo, this whole time you were probably having all these racist thoughts inside your head, and then now you're finally like publishing it straight up, and I'm like, this is just very disappointing.
Yeah, that's like the scariest part. And like I know like they always say like, oh, politics don't belong in the workplace, but like I don't want a coworker that's like thinking those kinds of thoughts about me. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, like in academia too. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. What about you?
Yeah, it wasn't at Columbia, but like at my undergrad, which was public school, I did have a communications professor because your boy graduated with a communications degree, and this professor like was very bad at technology, which sucked because he had an online class, and this was before COVID, so like it was just like we didn't have Zoom, it was nothing like that, but like his emails were just like so grammatically incorrect. Like he typed like he typed like an immigrant, for lack of a better word. He typed like like an Asian immigrant on WhatsApp. Like it was there was like ellipses in places there shouldn't have been. There were spaces in words randomly, and like I was like, dude, like what? I straight up emailed him. I was like, I don't understand what you're saying. Like it's literally grammatically incorrect what you're saying. And then I don't know where this came from, but his English was 100% perfect when he said this. Do you have command over the English language? That's what he asked me.
Oh,
and
wow.
I have it like in email, like a screenshot of it to this day.
Wow.
Yeah, it turned, and like I was very loud about it because I was very annoying in undergrad, and the whole like communications department like came down on him because like.
Whoa, nice.
Yeah, like I mean, he didn't get fired or anything. I think he also had tenure actually.
Of course, yeah. Tenure is like the bulletproof jacket for racism.
So is it like a pope? Like how do they just had to retire? Is that how they get out of there?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Otherwise, you could just get paid for life, and I think you might have to teach a minimum of a certain number of classes per year. But it's cozy.
Oh my God. Okay, well, okay.
I mean, good on you for speaking up, though. So it sounds like he got a slap on the wrist at least. I mean, it sounds like a slap on the wrist.
Yeah. He had to apologize to me, and like we like had to get on a video. It's not as nice as it sounds. He had to get on a video call. He was just like, yeah, you just misunderstood me. I was like, how could I have misunderstood you? Like I showed this email to literally everyone. Like there's a reason the dean is mad at you and not me.
Did you say that?
Yeah, and he was just like,
nice,
well, I don't know what to say. I'm sorry, I guess. And I was like, okay, that's not really okay. And then I just hung up, and that was it. Yeah. Yeah, I don't even remember what I made in that class. It doesn't matter because it just didn't matter. School doesn't matter is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, is there... Yeah, so I guess going back to the earlier topic, it's like, I guess racist professors can be at like public schools, they can be at Ivy Leagues.
Oh, racists are everywhere.
They're everywhere, yeah. Just at no matter, it's not like going to Ivy League will save you from racist professors, but also certain public schools might also do that. So focus on the public school that will give you the most social mobility.
I mean, you don't have to think about. I think that like might stress you out if you think like social mobility, right? Like I think that's what kind of got Asians in this pickle is like we have to be doctors because you know you can turn, like Ronnie Chang says, you can turn it around in one generation.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think that's the right way to think of it, but like you don't want to set you don't want to set yourself back 2 generations with like a 400K debt, right?
yeah, exactly. On top of the trauma of whatever,
exactly.
dealing with whatever bullshit from that said professor. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, and no, so the actual last item on the docket today is the latest issue of Vogue, January 5th. Jung Ho Yeon is the first East Asian woman to be featured on the cover of Vogue by herself. They have to specify by herself because I think like a couple years back they featured the women of Sense8, and there was another Korean actress. Yeah, I think that's it. It's a little rusty, but and then the other Asian woman is Priyanka Chopra. And
oh wow.
Yeah, so like this is fantastic, but also like, this is the pod. We don't really talk about like representation, whatever. But I saw this on Facebook, and there was an interesting comment that like I want me and Aaron to unpack. And that comment was like, "Oh, that's wonderful. She seems cool," which like weird, but okay. This person said, "I hope we don't have to wait long for the next Asian cover of a major US mag, and I hope it will be an Asian American who looks like me and speaks fluent English." Discuss.
I mean, I completely understand. Like, when I look at a picture of an Asian person, I know whether they're fluent in English or not.
And that's what I look for in my Vogue cover stars, right?
Yeah. And I guess for context, this Jung Ho Yoon, she was in Squid Game, which is what led to her being on this cover of Vogue. I mean, I'm just a little confused. Like, genetically, I don't think there are that many differences between Asian. I mean, there are not, like, physicality wise, like, there's not that many differences. Like, when I see her, I'm like, oh, cool, like, I see me. But I'm just a little confused. Like, what exactly does that mean?
I have no clue. I was like, because like I agree with you, right? Like, I can't look at her and think like, she does not speak fluent English. You know what I mean? Like, and like it's like that. It's like how we ended up with the whole "I'm not Chinese, don't stab me," like.
Oh yeah, like I'm not.
Like they don't care. They're not gonna ask like, "Oh, are you American?" Or like if you're not American, I'm gonna stab you. Or, it's like, I don't understand that line of thinking. But like at the same time, I will say like, someone in a subreddit brought up like, "Oh, why are actors from Asia or like celebrities from Asia, how do they get to make it so easily here while here in the US Asian Americans have so much difficulty?" And someone else was like, "Oh, well, it's probably because those Asian celebrities get to succeed in like a world that actually appreciates them," is what they said. Something along those lines.
100%.
I was like, okay.
Yeah. The way to get on American magazines is just to do your own thing in another country and then eventually
come back.
Like the loop-de-loop. Yeah, the boomerang. Yeah. Like, yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, I'm a little confused. Like, maybe, I mean, I can understand there's some claims of like a lot of K-pop stars or something, there's like plastic surgery. Like, I don't exactly understand what the claim to like looking like me means. Like, I don't know if they're talking about plastic surgery or some other way of looking different. That's unclear.
I don't be an Asian American who I don't know, because like the commenter was East Asian. Like I double checked. I was like, yeah, this person looked like she looks like you. I don't know. I don't know what you mean.
Korean?
I don't know if they were Korean or not, but like, I mean, we East Asian. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I don't understand that, but also, I think the first part, it's like, I hope we don't have to wait long for the next Asian cover of a major U.S. magazine. I'm like, honestly, to me, I'm like, yo, maybe you should just buy more Asian magazines. Like, if you're waiting for people to be on the cover, you could speed it up a lot just by buying a magazine of a different language.
Outsource your representation for.
Yeah, I'm like, actually, like people are thriving. Like
diaspora yourself.
Yeah, no, I'm actually like learn the language of the other magazine. Then it looks really cool. like I'm sure there's like a People magazine or Vogue of like Korea and like
Right.
China and whatever, right?
Just
It's like,
subscribe to Vogue Korea.
yeah. Actually, though. Yeah.
And I'm not surprised. And we probably will have to wait long because Anna Wintour has been like the editor of Vogue for like no less than a bajillion years. And she is very bad at diversity.
Is she very old?
She's crusty. She's crusty as hell, dude.
She's like the Queen Elizabeth of fashion magazines.
Exactly. Perfect description. No notes.
Yep.
The last note I want to make on this comment is like this person says an Asian American who looks like me. This commenter was East Asian, but you know, like a South Asian American could also make it, and they would not look anything like you.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I feel like it's really just like wanting to see someone who looks like you on a magazine. So again, I'm like, yo, just buy a Korean magazine. You'll instantly, feel that dopamine rush like, without having to wait like for Anna Wintour to die or become more quote like progressive.
Yeah, I don't know what to say. Like, go to therapy.
Yeah.
Get an Asian therapist.
Okay, let's wrap up this episode. Thank you for listening. Again, if you like the podcast, you can follow us on Instagram at Politically Asian Podcast, on Twitter at Politic Asian Pod. And if you really like us, please leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. All you have to do is find the podcast, scroll down to the stars, and click 5 stars. This is the last episode of Season 3. We have some great guests for you for Season 4. We tried booking some of them, but what I'm learning now is that when the people have more clout and are like more famous, it's harder to book them. That's what I'm learning. That's the spoiler, but we do have some very exciting guests for Season 4. Thank you again for listening, and we'll see you next season.
Bye.